All right, everyone, ready for a deep dive? Today we're tackling neurorehabilitation, but with a twist. We're talking about how something called GV-971 might just change the game.
Yeah, GV-971. It's already making some noise for treating Alzheimer's and dementia, but what we're looking at today goes way beyond that. Like, what if it could unlock even more potential for neurohab for, well, all sorts of conditions?
Okay, now that's got my attention. So, what are we using to guide this deep dive today?
So we've got this document, the title's a mouthful, but it's called How to Combine GV-971 with Innovative Substances and Diet to Increase the Effectiveness of Neurorehabilitation.
Hmm, innovative substances in diet. Okay, lay it on me. What's the main idea here?
Basically, it's asking, what if GV-971, right? What if it's not a solo act? What if it works even better as part of a carefully designed system?
Okay, so it's like building a super team for the brain. I'm into it. But before we get to the All-Stars, let's talk about GV-971 itself. What makes it so special for NeuroHayhab?
Well, the research is pointing to how GV-971 affects two big things, gut microbiota and brain inflammation.
Wait a minute, the gut. You're telling me what I eat can affect how my brain heals.
It might sound surprising, but yeah, it's a real thing. There's a ton of research happening right now on this gut-brain connection, and it's pretty fascinating stuff.
All right, you've got me hooked. Tell me more about this gut-brain connection.
Well, you've got trillions, literally trillions of bacteria living in your gut, and get this, they can actually send signals to your brain.
No way.
Really? Yeah. And those signals can affect things like inflammation and even your mood. And GVIN71 seems to be able to change the makeup of that bacteria in a good way, leading to less inflammation in the brain.
So less inflammation means a better healing environment for the brain. Makes sense.
Right. It's like setting the stage for recovery. Now, this is where the supporting cast comes in. These other substances that might make GV-971 even more effective. And two of the most interesting ones are PQQ and coenzyme Q10. They're both powerhouses when it comes to something called mitochondrial function, which is basically energy production at the cell level.
Mitochondria, right. The little power plants inside our cells. But how does giving our cells more energy help with neurorehabilitation?
Well, think about it this way. Neurons, those are the cells in your nervous system. They need a ton of energy, especially when they're repairing and regenerating. They need fuel to rebuild connections and function properly.
I'm following you.
And PQQ, you can find it in foods like kiwi and parsley, it actually helps your cells create more mitochondria, like it's building more power plants.
So more power plants equal more energy for the neurons that are working hard to repair the brain.
Gotcha. Okay, what about this coenzyme Q10? What does it do? CoQ10. It's in things like fatty fish and organ meats,
Yeah.
and it's a key player in the process of making energy inside the mitochondria, like a keep the lights on kind of thing. Make sure those power plants are humming along.
Hmm. So PQQ builds more power plants, and CoQ10 keeps them running smoothly. I like that, but I'm still a little fuzzy on how this all ties back to GV971. What's the connection?
It goes back to that inflammation thing we were talking about. GV-971 reduces inflammation, which is great, but those neurons still need the energy to actually do the repairs, right?
Okay. GV971 sets the stage, and then PQQ and CoQ10 give the neurons the boost they need to rebuild and start functioning again.
Exactly. They work together like a team. Now, PQQ and CoQ10 aren't the only ones in this neurorehabilitation dream team. We've also got omega-3 fatty acids, which are really important building blocks for neuron cell membranes.
Where do we find those?
You can find them in fatty fish, flaxseed oil, things like that. They help those neurons communicate with each other effectively. Plus, they have anti-inflammatory properties too, which just adds to that healing environment that GV-971 creates.
So omega-3s are like the team's communication experts, keeping the information flowing and keeping inflammation down. This is getting good. What about resveratrol? Isn't that the stuff in red wine that everyone's always talking about?
Yep, that's the one.
Hmm.
Resveratrol is a powerful antioxidant. It's found in grapes and red wine. But to really understand why antioxidants are so important, we got to talk about oxidative stress. Basically, it's like an imbalance in your body where you have these harmful molecules called free radicals, and they can damage your cells.
So oxidative stress is like rust, slowly wearing things down.
Perfect analogy. And resveratrol, it steps in like a bodyguard, neutralizing those free radicals, protecting cell, especially those neurons, from getting damaged.
I see a pattern here. Less inflammation, more energy, protection from damage. It's like each substance is tackling a different part of creating the perfect environment for the brain to heal.
That's it. And the cool thing is that these substances, they don't just work on their own, they actually boost each other's effects. For example, curcumin, the active compound in turmeric, is a powerful anti-inflammatory agent that also helps blood flow in the brain.
Curcumin, so that's turmeric, right, the spice.
Exactly. And by improving blood flow, it's making sure those busy neurons get all the oxygen and nutrients they need.
So curcumin is like the construction crew and the delivery service, making sure the brain gets what it needs to rebuild. And I bet this ties in with GV-971 and the inflammation thing too, right?
Absolutely. Curcumin and GV-971, they team up to fight inflammation, which helps the healing process even more. And then there's L-theanine. It's found in green tea, and it's known for helping people relax and de-stress.
Hold on, relaxation. What's that got to do with neurorehabilitation?
Well, here's the thing. Stress, it's really bad for your brain. It can actually get in the way of healing and recovery. So L-theanine, by helping you chill out, it creates a calmer environment for your brain, which lets GV-971 and all the other substances do their thing more effectively.
Oh, so it's like creating a peaceful retreat for the brain to heal in. Okay, I'm starting to see how this all comes together. This brain-boosting team is pretty impressive.
It's a pretty solid lineup, right? We've also got vitamin D, super important for brain function and protecting neurons, and phosphatidylserine. It's a mouthful, I know, but it's vital for helping those neurons talk to each other, making sure the signals are clear.
Okay, so phosphatidylserine is like the communication director keeping everyone on the same page. So we've got GV-971 as the team captain, and then this all-star team backing it up. PQQ, CoQ10, omega-3s, resveratrol, curcumin, L-theanine, vitamin D, phosphatidylserine. It's quite a crew.
You got it. It's all about creating the ideal environment for the brain to heal and recover. But there's one more crucial element we can't forget about, and that's diet, what we feed our bodies.
Yeah, food, of course. Makes sense that what we eat plays a big role in brain health and neurorehab, right?
Absolutely. We've been talking about giving the brain the tools it needs to heal, but we also got to make sure the foundation is solid. And that's where diet comes in. One of the best diets for brain health is the Mediterranean diet.
The Mediterranean diet, I knew it. It seems like it's always at the top of the list for just about every health benefit. Why is it so good for the brain specifically?
It's all about the ingredients. The Mediterranean diet is packed with antioxidants from colorful fruits and vegetables, and those antioxidants fight those harmful free radicals we were talking about earlier. Plus, you've got healthy fats from olive oil, nuts, and fatty fish.
Brain food.
Yeah, those fats, they're like the building blocks for brain cells. They help those cell membranes stay healthy and working right.
It's like giving our brains a five-star meal. So we got the Mediterranean diet. What about the mind diet? I've heard good things about that one for brain health.
So the mind diet, it's kind of like the Mediterranean diet's brainy cousin.
Okay.
It focuses on food specifically linked to like better brain power. Think leafy greens, berries, nuts, that sort of thing.
So lots of delicious choices to keep our brains happy. Are there any foods we should maybe avoid if we're focused on neurorehabilitation? Things that might hinder the process?
Well, sugar's a big one. Too much sugar, it can lead to inflammation all over the body, including the brain, and that can mess with how well your brain functions.
So lay off the sweets. Got it. It all makes sense, especially with how GV-971 works to reduce inflammation. It's like we're creating this ideal environment for healing, and then the right diet gives the brain the fuel it needs to rebuild.
Exactly. It's all about synergy, these different things working together. And speaking of synergy, we've got to mention omega-3s again. Those are essential for neurorehabilitation.
Right. The omega-3s are communication superstars, ensuring those signals are firing between neurons. Okay, so we've got GV-971, our amazing support team of substances, and a brain-healthy diet. Are we missing anything?
Well, we've talked about what we put into our bodies, but what we do with our bodies is important too. Like exercise, for example.
Oh, yeah, exercise. I know it's good for the brain, but how so?
Think of it as a spa day for your brain. When you exercise, you increase blood flow to the brain, which means those neurons are getting more of the good stuff, the oxygen and nutrients they need. Plus, it releases these things called growth factors. They're like fertilizer for the brain. They help neurons grow and survive.
So we're literally building a stronger brain through exercise? Awesome. What kind of exercise are we talking about? Do I need to be hitting the gym hard every day?
Not necessarily. Even moderate exercise can make a big difference. Brisk walking, swimming, dancing, anything that gets you moving consistently.
Got it. Move your body, boost your brain. So we've covered physical exercise. What about mental workouts? Does keeping our minds active play a role in neurorehab?
Big time. Just like physical exercise strengthens the body, mental exercise strengthens the brain. And when you challenge your brain, you build new connections between those neurons. It's called neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity, that's the brain's ability to rewire itself, right? So we
Yeah.
can actually encourage that process.
Yep, exactly. It's one of the most amazing things about the brain, and we can help it along by doing things that challenge us mentally.
Okay, so how do we give our brains a good mental workout?
Anything that's new and challenging. Learning a new language, picking up a musical instrument, doing puzzles, playing strategy games like chess. The key is to keep your brain engaged.
Challenge accepted. So to recap, we've got GV-971, our support crew, the right foods, and now physical and mental exercise. Anything else we should add to the mix for optimal brain health and neurorehabilitation?
Sleep. Can't forget about sleep. It's like hitting the reset button for your brain every night.
Oh yeah, sleep. I know I need more of it. What happens to our brains when we don't get enough sleep?
When you're sleep deprived, your brain can't clear out toxins as efficiently, memories don't get consolidated as well, and you're basically running on fumes. Plus, it can lead to more inflammation and increase your risk of neurodegenerative diseases down the line.
Okay, so enough sleep is non-negotiable. Any tips for improving sleep quality?
Most adults need around 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. Try to go to bed and wake up around the same time every day. Create a relaxing bedtime routine. Make sure your bedroom is dark, quiet, and cool.
Sleep hygiene makes sense. So taking care of our brains is a multi-pronged approach. Diet, supplements, exercise, mental stimulation, sleep. That's a lot to keep in mind.
It's true, it's a lot, but think of it as building a toolkit for brain health. You've got all these different tools to help your brain heal and thrive.
Love that analogy. Okay, so what other tools should we add to our brain health toolbox?
Well, we need to talk about stress management.
Stress, the bane of my existence. I feel like it's just a part of life these days. What can we do about it?
It's true, stress is pretty unavoidable, but there are ways to manage it better. Mindfulness practices like meditation can help. Deep breathing exercises, spending time in nature, doing things you enjoy, connecting with loved ones.
Finding those things that help us unwind and de-stress. Okay, so we've got GV-971, the support substances, the diet, the exercise, the sleep, and now stress management. Is there anything else we should consider when it comes to brain health and neurorehabilitation?
Actually, yes. We need to talk about the power of social connection.
Social connection. Interesting. I know loneliness can be bad for our health in general, but how does it affect our brains specifically?
Humans were social creatures, right?
Hmm.
We need connection. And it turns out those connections, those interactions, they're not just good for our mental and emotional well-being, they're good for our brains too.
So spending time with friends and family is actually a brain booster. Tell me more.
It is. When we interact with others, it challenges our brains, keeps us mentally sharp, and provides that emotional support that's so important for overall well-being.
So it's like a mental workout with a side of emotional support. I like that. Any suggestions for how to get more of that good social connection in our lives?
Be intentional about it. Make an effort to connect with loved ones regularly. Join a club or a group that interests you. Volunteer in your community. Even just striking up a conversation with someone new.
Great tips. So it's about being proactive and making those connections. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. GV-971, the substances, the diet, exercise, sleep, stress management, and social connection. It feels like we've created a pretty comprehensive picture of how to support our brain health and enhance neurorehabilitation. But before we move on, there's one more question I've been thinking about.
Fire away. I'm ready for it.
We've talked about all these different lifestyle factors, but do they all work independently or do they interact with each other? Is there like a synergy between them?
Now, that's a great question. And it really gets to the heart of what makes brain health so complex. These different aspects, they don't exist in isolation. They all influence each other in a bunch of different ways.
So it's not just about checking boxes, it's about understanding how they all work together to create a bigger picture of brain health.
Exactly. For example, exercise can help you sleep better, right?
Mhm.
And good sleep can make your brain work better, which makes it easier to be social and engage with others. It's like a positive feedback loop.
It's beautiful how it all comes together. Okay, so where do we go from here? We've covered so much in part two of this deep dive.
Well, we built a solid base. We've explored all of these different lifestyle factors that can affect brain health and how they can potentially boost the effects of GV-971 in neurorehabilitation. But we're not done yet. In part three, we're going to step into the future. We're going to talk about the really cutting-edge stuff, the therapies and technologies that are pushing the boundaries of what's possible in neurohab. Get ready to have your mind blown.
Can't wait. Join us for part three, where we explore the future of neurorehab.
Welcome back to the show. I feel like we've covered so much ground already talking about neurorehabilitation, all the different pieces of the puzzle, from GV-971 and all those amazing substances we talked about, to making smart lifestyle choices. But now we're going to blast off into the future. Are you ready to explore the cutting edge of neurohab? What's out there that could totally transform what's possible?
Oh, yeah, get ready for some serious sci-fi stuff turning into reality. One of the most exciting areas right now is brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs for short.
PCIs, okay, that does sound pretty futuristic. What are we talking about here? How do they work?
Just imagine, okay, a device that can actually read signals from your brain and turn them into commands, like for a computer or even a prosthetic limb.
Wait, thought control, is that what we're talking about? That's incredible. So how would that apply to neurorehabilitation? Oh, the potential is huge, especially for folks dealing with paralysis or anything that affects their movement. Researchers are working on BCIs that let people control robotic arms, even their own limbs, just by thinking about it.
Yeah.
It bypasses damaged nerves entirely.
So someone who's lost the ability to walk, they could potentially walk again thanks to a BCI. What are the biggest hurdles to making this a reality for everyone who needs it?
That's the dream, right? And we're getting closer all the time. But this tech is still pretty new, and it's complicated. One of the big challenges is making these BCIs that are super reliable, accurate, and easy to use. And of course, we need to make them more affordable too. But things are moving fast. I'm really optimistic about what the future holds for BCIs.
It's pretty mind-blowing to think that something as complex as movement could be restored through technology. Are BCIs being used for anything else in neurohab besides movement?
Oh yeah, for sure. They're also being explored for communication, so people who can't speak or write because of a condition like ALS, they could use their thoughts to communicate instead. Think about how life-changing that could be.
Giving people back their voice, wow. Okay, what other game-changing therapies are emerging in neurorehab? What else should we be excited about?
Well, there's neuromodulation, which is basically using different techniques to stimulate or inhibit nerve activity directly in the brain or spinal cord.
Neuromodulation sounds intense. How does that work, and what kind of conditions could it help with?
There are different types of neuromodulation, each with its own way of working. Deep brain stimulation, or DBS, is one that's been around for a while. It involves implanting electrodes in certain parts of the brain to deliver electrical impulses.
So sending tiny electric jolts to the brain? Interesting. What are the benefits of that, and are there any risks?
DBS has been really successful in treating things like Parkinson's disease, essential tremor, even OCD. And for neurorehab, they're looking at it as a potential treatment for stroke recovery, spinal cord injury,
Yep.
and chronic pain. The idea is to use electrical stimulation to encourage the brain to rewire itself, to promote that neuroplasticity we were talking about earlier. But it was a pretty serious procedure, so the risks and benefits have to be weighed carefully.
It's amazing that we can use electricity to help the brain heal. Are there any neuromodulation techniques that are less invasive, that don't involve surgery?
Yeah, there's transcranial magnetic stimulation, or TMS. That one uses magnetic pulses to stimulate or inhibit nerve activity. No surgery needed.
No surgery, that's definitely a plus. How does TMS compare to DBS? Is it as effective?
TMS is definitely gentler, and no surgery is required. The trade-off is that it's not as precise when it comes to targeting specific areas of the brain. But even so, it's showing a lot of promise for things like depression, anxiety, chronic pain, and researchers are looking into its potential for stroke recovery and other neurological conditions.
So we've got BCIs for controlling devices with our thoughts, neuromodulation using electricity or magnets to stimulate the brain. What other futuristic therapies are on the horizon? Anything else blowing your mind?
Oh, absolutely. We can't forget about regenerative medicine. That field's making huge strides in neurorehab, too. Scientists are figuring out how to use stem cells to actually repair damaged nerve tissue in the brain and spinal cord.
Stem cells, right. Those are the cells that can become any other type of cell, like the blank slates of the body.
Exactly. The hope is that by transplanting stem cells into the areas that are damaged, we can encourage the growth of brand new, healthy nerve tissue. Imagine the possibilities for restoring lost function.
It's like giving the brain and spinal cord the building blocks they need to heal themselves. Pretty amazing. What are some of the challenges facing stem cell therapy? What are the things researchers still need to figure out?
Stem cell therapy is cutting-edge stuff, and it's really complex. One of the big challenges is making sure those transplanted cells don't cause any problems, that they integrate properly. And we need to find reliable sources of stem cells and develop safe and effective ways to transplant them. But the potential benefits are so huge, researchers are really dedicated to making this work.
I'm so inspired by all the progress being made in this field. With BCIs, neuromodulation, and stem cell therapy, it feels like we're on the cusp of a revolution in neurorehabilitation.
I couldn't agree more. It's such an exciting time to be in this field. And I think the most important thing to remember is that we're just getting started. We're only beginning to tap into the potential of what's possible when it comes to restoring function and improving quality of life for people with neurological conditions.
That's a powerful message of hope. It's a reminder that even with really complex challenges, human ingenuity and that drive to heal can create incredible possibilities.
And don't underestimate the power of the human brain to heal and adapt. It's
Mhm.
capable of amazing things.
So true. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of neurorehabilitation. We've covered so much, and I hope you're walking away feeling inspired, hopeful, and maybe even a little bit smarter about all the amazing things happening in this field.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.